Today is December 21st, 1936. The Supreme Court has released a ruling in the case of the United States versus Curtiss-Wright Export Co.
The case surrounds a joint resolution approved by both houses of Congress on May 28, 1934.
The resolution gave President Franklin Delano Roosevelt the ability to place an embargo on gun sales to related parties of the Chaco War, a territory dispute between the countries of Bolivia and Paraguay.
President Roosevelt soon after issued this proclamation putting this ban into place.
During the duration of this embargo, the Curtiss-Wright Export Co. conspired to sell 15 machine guns to the country of Bolivia.
Curtiss-Wright argued that Congress had wrongly delegated their legislative powers to the president, making the embargo unconstitutional.
The court has sided in favor of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the United States government with a vote of 7-1.
Justice George Sutherland delivered the opinion of the court. He stated that the resolution was constitutional due to the plenary powers of the president relating to foreign negotiations.
Extra, extra, Curtiss-Wright defeated. Presidential power reinforced. Read all about the Supreme Court's news decision in today's print.
Curtiss who? I've never heard of them before. Are they a sports team?
No, it's that Supreme Court thing. But what does he mean, how can the president's power be reinforced? Of course he has the power, he's the president.
I thought this one had to do with other countries. Can the president make those kinds of decisions without Congress?
I'll take one young man. This is actually a really interesting case. Have you guys not heard about it in your classes?
I think we did. I'm not sure if I was paying attention or not.
Do we have to talk about government stuff right now? I prefer to keep the boring stuff in class. Hey, it's way more interesting than you're giving it credit for. Yes, it deals with presidential powers, but the whole case is about the Curtiss-Wright Export Corporation illegally selling 15 machine guns to Bolivia during the Chaco War.
That's way more interesting than I thought. What else do you have to say about it? Yeah, can you explain more about how much say the president actually has in all this?
Alright, sounds like it's time for a lesson in government with a side of coffee.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this special committee hearing on investigating the munitions industry. The munitions industry and everything around them can simply be put as merchants of death. As this newly created Senate Special Committee, we seek solutions to put an end to what we see as for-profit war-making. I now yield to Senator Pope from Idaho.
These so-called merchants of death can go on for no longer, especially during this time of peace. I now yield my time back to the chairman.
Throughout the session, we aim to question the executives of not only the arms manufacturers, but the people that supply their materials and the banks that finance them. Getting to the bottom of this is so important and, as Senator Pope pointed out, is essential for peace.
Wow, that's a unique topic for a committee to focus on.
The special committee certainly thought that arm manufacturers were fueling the flames of foreign wars by calling them merchants of death.
Merchants of death sure does sound intimidating.
But how does the special committee play into the Supreme Court's decision? To understand the committee's influence, you need to see what Congress did next.
Today, May 24th, 1934, the House of Representatives, along with the United States Senate, passed a joint resolution authorizing the President of the United States to forbid arms sales to the Chaco adversaries, so long as the President believes an arms embargo will influence peace upon the region.
That was a big action for Congress to take.
This action puts more power into the hands of the president.
The president already has broad powers when it comes to being commander-in-chief. I think they're called plenary powers.
That's right. Presidential powers include serving as commander-in-chief, making treaties, appointing officials, and ensuring laws are faithfully executed.
It seems like the plenary power within the presidency plays a major role in how much influence the United States has on the world stage.
And President Roosevelt didn't just use his plenary powers, but he also used the powers given to him by Congress in this joint resolution.
Now, therefore, I, Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, acting under and by virtue of the authority conferred to me by the said joint resolution by Congress, do hereby declare and proclaim that I found the prohibition of the sale of arms and the munition of arms to those in conflict in the Chaco may contribute to the reestablishment of peace between those countries, and that I have consulted with the governments of other American republics and have been assured of the cooperation of such governments as I have deemed necessary as contemplated by the said joint resolution. And I do hereby admonish all citizens of the United States and every person to abstain from every violation of the provisions of the joint resolution, hereby made applicable Bolivia and Paraguay. And I do warn that all violations of such provisions will be rigorously prosecuted.
Violators will be rigorously prosecuted. Extra, extra.
Sounds like FDR meant business. Yeah, no kidding.
How could anyone not obey his band when he sounds like that?
Should be surprised. Apparently, the executives of the Curtiss-Wright Corporation felt that getting a little more money out of this war was worth a clash with the government.
Well, gentlemen, I don't know what we can do with these Bolivian contracts. With all the news calling us merchants of death and Senator Nye breathing down our necks, I think we're just going to need to call this a defeat.
With all due respect, Mr. Webb, we most certainly should keep going. This is a lucrative agreement we have ourselves going on right now. We can't let our competitors get a lead on us.
I must disagree. They already tried to seize the merchandise going out of New York Harbor, and it's a miracle we were able to get the 5 fighter planes out before the embargo was put into place. I understand your frustration, but the 4 Condor bombers will just have to be a loss.
But they don't have to be. If we can convert the Condor into passenger planes by removing the gun racks, we can sell the planes to commercial airlines. Do we know any commercial airlines that would be willing to buy our planes?
Yes, sir. There is this one airline based out of New York, led by Hugh Wells. They are currently trying to build an airline service between New York and Buenos Aires. I believe they are likely in need of planes.
So that's half our problem solved already then.
Only half. The machine guns will pose significantly more problem to find a new seller, and we can't sell to anyone involved in the Chaco conflict. Like, we just don't sell machine guns for personal use.
That is correct, sir. Beyond Bolivia, there are no other current inquiries for these machine guns.
That does bring up an interesting point, however. Bolivia was the perfect customer, and finding a replacement is going to prove to be very difficult. So the only solution is clear. We've got to find a way to get around the embargo.
I must agree, but that will require a lot of subtlety on our part. Any ideas?
Well, if we put the 15 machine guns on planes that were produced before the deadline, then we can get them to Bolivia without being noticed.
I'm still filling out the paperwork for the export declaration on the 5 fighter planes. We could place them in crates on the planes and leave them undeclared.
That might just work. The government's so concerned with those 4 Cougar bombers that they won't be concerned about the stuff that's already been cleared for shipping.
Well, it sounds as though the plan is in motion. Could you prepare the paperwork? We need to be routine and on time in order to avoid any suspicion.
Right away, sir.
Converting bombers to airliners, that's different. I think it's really swell. What a great way to not let the planes go to waste.
Not to mention what they decided to do with the machine guns. I mean, the Curtiss-Wright Corporation was really trying to get their machine guns delivered.
I think it's all complicated and suspicious if you ask me.
So what was the point of the Supreme Court decision that came out today? Well, if the Supreme Court is getting involved, then it must be a very big deal.
That's true. Let's see what the Supreme Court has to say.
All rise for the Honorable Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court, George Sutherland.
Thank you, Stephen. If the joint resolution had related solely to internal affairs, it would be open to the challenge that it constituted an unlawful delegation of legislative power to the executive. We find it unnecessary to determine. The whole aim of the resolution is to affect a situation entirely external to the United States and falling within the category of foreign affairs. The determination which we are called to make, therefore, is whether the joint resolution, as applied to that situation, is vulnerable to attack under the rule that forbids a delegation of the law-making power. Neither the Constitution nor the laws passed in pursuance of it have any force in foreign territory, and less in respect of our own citizens, and of operations of the nation in such territory, must be governed by treaties, international understandings and compacts, and the principles of international law. In this vast external realm, with its important, complicated, delicate, and manifold problems, the President alone has the power to speak or listen as a representative of the nation. He makes treaties with the advice and consent of the Senate, but he alone negotiates. As John Marshall said in his great argument of March 7, 1800 in the House of Representatives, the President is the sole organ of the nation in its external relations, and its sole representative with foreign nations.
So what do you think now? Was the president within his powers?
Most definitely. The Supreme Court even went as far as to call the president the sole organ of the government when it came to foreign affairs.
Yeah, and the president has these inherent powers because the U.S. is so influential abroad. Exactly like Dr. Stratton taught us, if someone was paying attention. Your Majesty's not wrong, though. The president is justified in greater discretion in international affairs.
It seems that the court allows for more inherent powers in foreign relations than in domestic matters.
According to this, the case addressed the non-delegation doctrine, which generally prevents Congress from delegating its legislative powers. However, the court found that this doctrine does not prevent Congress from delegating significant authority to the president in foreign affairs. I think that's a good thing. How we as the United States deal with foreign affairs.
We won't know now, but someday the United States may be looked at on how we deal with foreign policy, especially through the president.
The legacy of the Curtiss-Wright case has continued for almost a century, as the constitutional scope of foreign policy authority of the President in relation to Congress remains a contested issue. Even when what one commentator has called the presidential Curtiss-Wright so I'm right card has not prevailed, Justice George Sutherland's opinion and his quotation of John Marshall's sole organ line continue to be referenced and debated as new foreign policy scenarios emerge.